Sipho learned early how to disappear in plain sight. In Johannesburg, disappearance did not mean absence, it meant blending so perfectly into the cracks of the city that no one thought to ask who you were or where you came from. It meant becoming part of the wall, brick, dust, paint, and shadow, until your name mattered less than the colors you left behind. Every morning before the sun fully woke the city, Sipho slipped out of the one-room house he shared with his mother and two younger siblings in Alexandra Township. The roof rattled when trucks passed. The walls held old heat and older worries. His mother, Zanio, was usually already awake, tying her headscarf, preparing to leave for whatever cleaning job or laundry work she had managed to secure that day. They rarely spoke much in the mornings. Silence was cheaper than hope. Sipho carried a battered backpack that once belonged to a private school student. The zipper was broken, the strap stitched with black thread, but it held what mattered: spray cans wrapped in newspaper, charcoal sticks, a small sketchbook with cord pages, and a pair of gloves with the fingers cut off. He told people he liked the feel of the wall under his hands. The truth was simpler: whole gloves were a luxury. By day, Sipho attended a public college on the edge of the city, studying graphic design on a partial scholarship that barely covered fees. By night, and sometimes by afternoon when classes ended early, he became someone else. Not Sipho the poor boy from Alex. Not Sipho whose school shoes had split at the sole in his final year. He became ASH, the name he signed in sharp angles at the corner of his murals. ASH, like something burned but not erased. ASH, like proof that fire had once existed there. The walls of Braamfontein, Mabinin, and Newtown knew him well. His graffiti was not the angry scrawl people expected. It told stories. Faces emerged from concrete: women with braided crowns, men with tired eyes, children holding kites shaped like Africa. He painted broken clocks leaking time, birds stitched together with wire, hands reaching through cracked paint toward light. People stopped. Phones came out. Sometimes applause followed, quick and embarrassed, like people weren't sure if they were allowed to feel something in public. Sipho never stayed long enough to hear praise turn into questions. The Johannesburg Art Show arrived in the city like a sudden declaration. Billboards went up. Social media buzzed. Galleries polished their floors and sharpened their wine glasses. For 1 week, art would matter more loudly than money, at least that was what the posters claimed. Sipho saw the irony immediately. He also saw opportunity. A friend from college, Themba, told him about an open call section at the show, an outdoor exhibition space for emerging voices from the streets. No formal training required. No gallery representation needed. Just work that spoke. They want authenticity, Themba said, laughing as they sat on the steps outside campus. Which usually means they want to borrow your struggle for their flyers. Sipho smiled, but his chest tightened. Authenticity had fed him nothing so far. Still, the idea followed him home, crept into his sketchbook, and refused to leave. For nights, he sketched until his fingers cramped, imagining a piece that could hold everything he had never said out loud. He didn't tell his mother about the art show. Zanil believed in practical dreams. Finish school. Get a job. Help your siblings. Art was something you admired on television, not something you trusted to keep the lights on. Sipho understood her fear too well to challenge it. The piece he finally chose to paint was large, too large to do unnoticed. It took up a concrete wall near the exhibition grounds, one the city had marked for temporary installations. Sipho worked from dawn to dusk, fueled by cheap bread, water, and something close to desperation. He painted a young man standing between two worlds. On one side, gold buildings with mirrored windows reflected nothing but sky. On the other, corrugated roofs bent under heavy clouds. The young man's chest was transparent. Inside, instead of a heart, burned a bright, messy galaxy of color, leaking through cracks in his ribs and staining both worlds equally. When he stepped back, his hands shook. It was too honest. Too exposed. He signed it ASH anyway. The day the art show opened, Johannesburg felt dressed up, like the city had borrowed a suit that didn't quite fit. Sipho arrived early, wearing his cleanest jeans and a plain black hoodie. He stayed near his piece, pretending to check his phone while watching people react. Some walked past quickly, distracted by sculptures and curated installations nearby. Others slowed, frowned, leaned in. A few smiled. One older man wiped his eyes and laughed at himself afterward. Sipho's stomach twisted each time someone stopped. This was what he wanted, to be seen. It was also what he feared most. That was when he noticed her. She stood still in front of his mirror, not taking pictures, not talking. She simply looked. She wore a light-colored dress and sneakers that had never known mud. Her hair was pulled back casually, the kind of casual that took effort. Sipho recognized well the way poor people always did, by the absence of urgency. She tilted her head slightly, studying the transparent chest, the galaxy spilling outward. Her expression wasn't pity or curiosity. It was recognition. Sipho forgot to breathe. After a long moment, she turned, as if feeling his gaze, and their eyes met. There was no dramatic spark, no sudden music. Just a quiet, steady awareness that something had shifted. "This is yours, isn't it?" she asked, gesturing to the mural. Sipho hesitated. He was used to hiding behind ASH. Names complicated things. "Yes," he said finally. "It feels like a confession," she said. Like the wall wasn't enough to hold it. He swallowed. "Sometimes it isn't." She smiled, not wide, not polite. "Real. I'm Lindiwe." Sipho. They stood there, two people from different maps of the same city, bound for a moment by color and concrete. Lindiwe told him she was a fine art student at a private university in Santon. Her father was an investor. Her mother collected ceramics. Art, for her, had always been framed, discussed, supported. For Sipho, it had been survival. "What made you choose the street?" she asked gently. He shrugged. "The street didn't ask me to explain myself." They talked longer than he expected. About murals in Mexico. About South African visual history. About how graffiti was both vandalism and prayer, depending on who you asked. Sipho was careful, answering without revealing too much. He did not mention Alexandra. He did not mention the nights his siblings slept early to forget hunger. He kept his poverty folded neatly, like an old letter you don't open in front of strangers. Lindiwe didn't push. She didn't need to. She looked at his work like it was enough. Over the next few days, they kept finding each other at the art show. Sometimes by accident. Sometimes not. She introduced him to other students, to curators who nodded thoughtfully at his mural and asked for his artistic statement. He learned how to translate feeling into language that sounded respectable. He learned how quickly art could be swallowed by polite conversations and business cards. Lindiwe invited him for coffee one afternoon. The cafe was airy and bright, with prices that made Sipho's chest tighten. He ordered the cheapest thing on the menu and tried not to rush it. Lindiwe talked about her childhood home, about traveling, about exhibitions she dreamed of attending abroad. Sipho listened, fascinated and slightly afraid. He liked her. That was undeniable. He liked how she listened, how she asked questions without making him feel small. He liked how she saw his art as something alive, not something to be fixed or improved. What he didn't like was the growing gap between who she thought he was and who he actually was. When she asked where he lived, he said, "Around here," vaguely. When she asked about his family, he spoke in generalities. He told himself it was temporary, that he would explain later, when it mattered. He told himself many things. The art show ended with offers. Not many, but enough to change the shape of Sipho's future. A small gallery expressed interest. A community art program asked him to mentor younger artists. A magazine requested an interview. ASH was becoming a name people wanted to know. At home, Sipho's mother listened quietly as he finally told her about the show. She nodded, cautious pride flickering across her face. "Just don't forget where you come from," she said. "And don't let anyone make you ashamed of it." Sipho promised her he wouldn't. He meant it. He just wasn't sure how. The lie unraveled the way lies often do, not with drama, but with a small, unavoidable truth. Lindiwe insisted on visiting him one afternoon. "I want to see where you create," she said. "Your real space." Panic rose in his throat. He considered refusing, inventing an excuse, maintaining the illusion. He was tired of hiding. Tired of holding two versions of himself apart like mismatched wires. "Okay," he said quietly. The taxi ride to Alexandra felt endless. Lindiwe grew quieter as the buildings changed, as the roads narrowed, as the city revealed a version of itself rarely printed in brochures. When they stepped out, children ran past them, laughing. Music played from somewhere. The air smelled of cooking oil and dust. Sipho led her to the house. It looked smaller than it did in his memory. Inside, his siblings stared openly. His mother smiled politely, confusion shadowing her eyes. Sipho introduced Lindiwe, his voice tight. He watched understanding dawn slowly on her face, not judgment, but surprise, and something like shame for not having known. "I didn't tell you," Sipho said later, outside, unable to meet her eyes. "I was afraid." "Of what?" she asked softly. "That you'd see me differently." She was quiet for a long moment. "I do see you differently," she said. His chest tightened. "I see how much it cost you to create. And I respect it more." Tears burned behind his eyes. He had not expected that. Still, something shifted between them. Not broken, but changed. Sipho became acutely aware of every difference, how easily she moved through the world, how heavy everything felt for him. He worried he would always be explaining himself, translating his life into something acceptable. The gallery offer came with conditions. Clean canvases. Controlled spaces. Less rawness. They liked his work, they said, but wanted to refine it. Sipho stood in the gallery, white walls pressing in, and felt his chest tighten. He thought of his mural, of paint bleeding into concrete, of voices rising from the street. That night, he returned to his wall. He added something new, a figure stepping forward, leaving both worlds behind, carrying the galaxy openly in their hands. No signature this time. The next day, he declined the gallery's offer. Instead, he partnered with the community art program. He taught kids who reminded him of himself, angry, brilliant, unseen. He painted legally and illegally, on walls that welcomed him and walls that challenged him. His name spread slowly, honestly. Lindiwe stayed. Not as a savior, not as a solution, but as someone willing to learn and unlearn. Their relationship was not simple. They argued. They grew. They listened. Sipho learned that love, like art, required honesty more than polish. At the next Johannesburg Art Show, his work returned, bigger, bolder, unmistakably his. This time, his name stood beside ASH. He did not hide. True wealth, Sipho realized, was not measured in money or approval. It was measured in the freedom to stand in your truth, paint-stained hands visible, and say, "This is who I am, and this is what I bring to the world." If you enjoyed the story, learned something, and watched till the end, please do us a small favor by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It's a small favor from you, but it would really mean a lot to us. Also drop your thoughts in the comment section. I will be reading every one of them. Thanks for watching. Until next time, my friends.